Hey, I'm Silverpaw, and today I'm bringing you Chapter 3 of Detention, a Kingdom Hearts fanfiction. And before I get started, I just wanted to remind you guys that if you liked the video, please leave a like, because every single like really helps me out. So anyways, let's get started. There was a quiet knock on the door, about 20 minutes later, and Roxas debated actually getting off the couch and answering the door himself or not. Finally, he decided that he'd probably be within his best interest, and lugged himself off the couch and all the way to the front door, about 3 feet away. Oh, the agony. He pulled the door open, surprised to see not only Zexion, but his brother Riku as well. Riku was Sora's age, and the two boys had been best friends since they were babies. "Hey Zex, Riku. Sora's in Namine's room," he informed the latter, who made his way inside and down the hall. "Sorry about him, I had a bad feeling about leaving him home alone with just my dad." "It's no problem, Zex. Come on in." When the silver-haired boy was safely in the living room, Roxas shut the door tightly behind him and led him towards his bedroom. Zexion was Roxas's one and only friend, someone he'd known since birth. They used to live next door to each other, but after the death of Roxas's parents, Leon rented out a place a couple blocks away and they'd moved. Zexion had been the very first person Roxas had confided his sexuality in, and he hadn't really cared. After all, he was bi himself, but after seeing what happened to Roxas, he had been crazy enough to announce it to the world. Zexion had basically raised Riku from a young age, because his mother took off with him when Riku was 2 and his father was too absorbed in the bottle to pay any attention to the kids. Then again, that was the case with almost any parent who lived on that side of town. The kids of Ghettoville were tough because they had to be, or they wouldn't make it through the day. The brothers were extremely close. Standing somewhere around 5'10", Zexion was fairly tall. He was generally a quiet guy, but incredibly smart and funny if you could actually get him to talk to you. A lot of people were wary of him because he wore a lot of black and wore his hair in the emo style, though he'd been wearing his hair like that ever since before the emo thing had even really started. When he was 7, his father had gotten extremely drunk and tried to hit Riku, but Zexion had stepped in the way. His father had been so pissed he slashed him in the face with a broken bottle and got him in the eye. His father, still enraged, hadn't bothered taking him to the hospital. He'd come to Roxas's house because his mother had been a nurse, but there really was no saving his eye at that point. He went blind in his right eye, and the skin had scarred so badly he'd grown his bangs out to cover it. They settled themselves on the bed, Roxas leaning with his back against one wall, and Zexion sitting up straight on the other end, leaning against nothing. He didn't like the slouch. "Alright, so tell me what's so epic and important that you couldn't wait until tomorrow to tell me about." "Well, do you know anything about a guy named Axel?" he asked. "Axel Sinclair? Really tall, bright red hair?" Zexion asked, receiving a confirming nod from the blonde. "Yeah, I've seen him around. Why? Did he do something to you?" Another thing about Zexion, he was fiercely loyal and willing to put himself on the line for the people he loved. "Well, not really. He just... well..." He paused, trying to think of the right way to put it. "He kissed me, Zex. Well, I mean, I kissed him back. It's not like he was assaulting me or... Wait, Axel Sinclair is gay?" he asked, his one steel blue eye blinking rapidly as if it were compulsion. "Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, he just realized it today. He asked if he could kiss me just to make sure, and I let him." "So, you kissed Axel Sinclair because he wanted to make sure that he was gay?" "Zex, no matter which way you say it, the outcome is the same. Axel is gay, and we kissed." Zexion shook his head. Is this bad or good, Roxas? Help me out here." Roxas let out a small groan. "I don't know if it's good or bad, Zex. He's all ready to come out to his friends, and God, I don't know if I can handle the looks I'm bound to get. They'll be convinced that I'm, like, converting people or something. But, I mean, he's gorgeous. Have you seen him? He's like fucking sex on legs or something. And damn, he's a really good kisser, but I don't even know if he was just using me or joking around or if he's going to be an ass about tomorrow. And I don't know what to expect, and I hate that." He paused to breathe, and Zexion took the moment to get a word in. "Roxas, I think you might talk yourself into a coma if you don't calm down. Take a moment to breathe and then explain your thoughts, rationally and coherently, if you please." Roxas followed his instructions, breathed deeply for a minute before he spoke again. Alright, I guess it wouldn't be too bad, because I'm attracted to Axel. I mean, how could I not be? He's gorgeous. Not to mention he's a good kisser, and he seemed interested in me. Well, because I mean, why the hell else would he have wanted to kiss me? But then again, I'm having doubts too. I guess it's kinda impossible for me to completely trust him after everything I've been through from this whole town for the last few years. Zexion nodded. Well, that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah, cause, I mean, what if it's just some cruel joke that he was put up to by his friends? Convince the gay kid that he's not alone and then tear him apart from the inside? I don't believe that Axel would do that to me, but in all honesty, I don't know him that well. Even if he was interested to begin with, he probably wants to get as far away from me as he possibly can now. Zexion frowned, tilting his head slightly to the side. Why do you think that? He asked. He offered me a ride home today, and I took it because he was really late and I knew Leon had to get to work. I don't think he realized I live in the heart of Ghettoville, but you should have seen how tense he was the entire time we were driving through here. Or better yet, you should have seen his face when he stopped here. I thought his jaw was gonna fall off, Zex. He didn't realize he was getting involved with right trash, I guess. Stop it, Roxas, Zexion snapped. Don't talk down on yourself because of the opinion of others. You know better than that. I know you do. Roxas sighed and nodded. Yeah, I know. Sorry, Zex. I just can't help but think it's pointless sometimes. Maybe we're just destined to turn out like our parents, you know? Drinking non-stop, slapping our kids around. Zexion's hand snatched out, catching Roxas in the cheek. His head snapped to the side with the momentum, leaving his cheek stinging. Don't you say that, Roxas. Don't you fucking say that. As soon as you give up, that's when it happens. That's when you become your parents. Roxas was frozen in shock. He couldn't believe Zexion had hit him. I'm sorry for hitting you, Roxas, but maybe that'll be your reminder. I have my very own reminder. Zexion swept his bangs back behind his ear, revealing his ruined eye. A large, jagged scar stretched from the middle of his forehead down across his eye to his cheek. Ugly and bold. I see that every day, Rox, and it reminds me. It drives me to get the hell out of Ghettoville. I'm gonna make something out of myself, and then I'm leaving and I'm taking Riku with me. I just hope that you'll get out here before you're cursed with your own scars. Roxas stared into Zexion's eye for a moment before he sighed softly. Of course, you're right, Zexion, but it's too late. I have my own scars, mine just aren't as tangible as yours. Zexion loosed his hair from behind his ear, hiding his imperfection from the world once more. They were quiet for then a very long time, neither of them able to think of anything to say. Seconds melted into minutes, and minutes into hours. They listened in their silence to the sounds to the rest of the house, music and laughter coming from Namine's room, cars driving around the street outside. The can man who lived next to the dumpster at the end of the street went by slowly, the bad wheel on his grocery cart squeaking loudly. After an hour and a half, Zexion finally spoke again. If this thing with Axel works out, I'll be happy for you, Rox. If it doesn't, well, he doesn't deserve you anyway. Either way, that's one more reason for you to fight your way out of here and live up to the tremendous amount of potential you have. Roxas smiled and softly at his friend. Zexion always knew just what to say. Thanks, Zex. The door fell open and Sora entered. Riku came close behind, both of them flopping on Sora's bed at the same time, narrowly missing crashing into each other. Roxas, Sora whined. We're starving. What are you gonna make for dinner? You're 14. Why don't you cook and give me a night off? Roxas grumbled good-naturedly. That might be because Sora burns water, Riku said dryly, causing Sora to smack his arm indignantly. 'Tis true. On that note, I guess I'll start heading to the kitchen. He pulled himself to his feet and offered a hand to Zexion. After they were both on their feet, they headed to scour the kitchen in search of something that was dinner-like. The fridge had ketchup, a jar of peanut butter, a jug of Kool-Aid, and the remains of what had used to be an apple, but now appeared to be a breeding ground for mold. Wrinkling his nose in disgust, he fished the apple out and chucked it, slamming the refrigerator door in frustration. Why not spaghetti? Zexion asked. You got a can of ragu in here. Roxas glanced over at the counter and saw that the jar full of spaghetti noodles had just enough to feed them all. "Yeah, sure, let's do that," he said. "Grab that ragu, will you?" He ducked under the sink to look in the cupboard for a pan. Once he found one to his liking, he yanked it out and filled it with water and set the heat, allowing it to start to boil. "Roxas, can I help?" Namine asked. She liked to hang out in the kitchen and help with the cooking. Roxas had known how to make enough food to keep himself alive by the time he was 10, and Namine still couldn't cook much. Leon was paranoid about one of the twins getting hurt in the kitchen, thus he and Roxas were the designated cookers in the house. Zexion would even expected to help out when he was over, which really didn't bother him at all. Well, I don't really know if there's much to do. Spaghetti's pretty simple, and at Namine's pout, he folded easily. How about you look in the cupboards in the freezer and see if there are any vegetables that you can get for dinner?" Namine grinned and nodded, beginning to rummage through the cupboards. Roxas reached into his pocket and grabbed his cigarettes, displeased to see that he had only had 3 left. He offered one to Zexion, who shook his head. "I'm trying to quit, remember?" was the explanation. "Oh, right, I forgot. Sorry." He lit it on the burner and inhaled, opening the window a crack to let the smoke filter out. "Roxas, you know Leon doesn't like it when you smoke around us," Namine reminded gently, ever the peacekeeper. "Namine," Roxas retorted, "you know Leon doesn't like you playing in the kitchen when the stove's on." She sighed and rolled her eyes. "All right, you got me. I won't tell if you won't." He grinned and held out his hand for a shake. "You've got a deal, little sister." They shook on it and the deal was done. 20 minutes later, when Sora walked in histrionically, hacking up his left lung and complaining about cigarette smoke, all Roxas had to do was threaten him with no dinner to get him to keep quiet. Of course, he'd never actually deny Sora dinner, and Sora would never actually think him out. It was all just loving teases. After dinner, Roxas left the leftovers and left them up in the fridge for Leon when he got home. It was only about 8 o'clock, but Roxas was exhausted, so he took a quick shower, brushed his teeth, put on his pajamas, and fell into bed. He slept through the night, waking only once when Zexion slipped in beside him a few hours later, cuddling close for warmth. He wrapped his arms around his friend and hugged him close to his chest, easily falling back asleep.